Have you ever seen arrogance backfire in the most unexpected way? Well, stay with me till the end of this story, because what happened on that rainy afternoon will leave you speechless, and trust me, you won't see the twist coming. If you love powerful real-life inspired stories, don't forget to hit that like button right now and subscribe to Goodness Corner for more gripping tales that open hearts and open eyes. The streets were slick with rain, a light drizzle painting the roads in a glossy shimmer as if nature itself had laid down a silver carpet. Among the line of motorbikes at the traffic signal, one stood out, not for its shine but for the rider on it. His name was Cain, a man who wore arrogance like a jacket, zipped tight against the world. His engine roared louder than it needed to, his boots scuffed the wet asphalt with carelessness, and his eyes scanned the road like he owned every lane. He thrived on the fear he sparked in others, weaving through cars, cutting pedestrians short, and believing his power lay in speed and aggression. A few blocks down, under a sagging umbrella and balancing two oversized delivery bags on her small shoulders, walked Eliza. She was 23, barely scraping by with a series of jobs that barely paid her rent, but she held her chin high despite the weight of the world. Her delivery uniform was damp, her sneakers soaked through, yet her determination outshone the gloom of the rain. Each step she took was careful, not to slip, not to ruin the precious food that hungry customers were waiting for. She wasn't just carrying meals, she was carrying her dignity, her fight, her silent refusal to give up. The two couldn't have been more different, Cain, the embodiment of reckless pride, and Eliza, the quiet warrior of perseverance. But fate, that strange architect of stories, had drawn their paths onto the same street. The signal turned green. Cain revved his bike like a beast let loose, skidding slightly as his tires screeched against the wet road. Eliza had just stepped off the curb, hugging her bags close to her chest. She calculated the cars, the traffic, the moment she could safely cross. But Cain wasn't calculating anything. He wasn't slowing down. He wasn't even looking at her as he swerved straight into her path. Eliza froze, clutching the straps of her delivery bag as the roar of the engine grew closer. "Hey! Watch it," she cried out instinctively, but her voice was drowned in the thunder of the bike. Cain slammed the brakes at the last second, the tires hissing like an angry serpent, the back wheel fishtailing inches from her toes. The entire street seemed to pause, every eye turning to the confrontation in the rain. Instead of apologizing, Cain sneered. His leather-gloved hand shot out, shoving Eliza roughly on the shoulder. "Get out of the way, delivery girl. You think the street is your playground," he barked. His voice was harsh, dripping with disdain, as if she were nothing more than dirt beneath his wheels. Eliza stumbled back, nearly dropping the bag she had protected so fiercely. Her elbow scraped against the pavement as she steadied herself, her breath caught between shock and anger. Gasps erupted from the crowd, an old woman clutching her grocery cart, a teenager holding up his phone to record, a taxi driver muttering curses under his breath. The world had just witnessed the arrogance of a man against the resilience of a woman who had done nothing but try to survive her day. Eliza rose slowly, her wet hair clinging to her cheeks, her eyes sharp with a fire Cain did not expect. She wasn't the type to be silenced by humiliation, not anymore. Her life had been full of moments where people tried to push her down, but every time, she had learned to rise with more strength. Her father had once told her, "Respect isn't demanded, it's earned." And sometimes, child, you'll have to remind people where the line is. And in that moment, Eliza decided the line had been crossed. Cain smirked, thinking his shove had ended the encounter. He revved his bike again, intending to speed off, leaving the memory of her small frame tumbling behind him. But before he could move, Eliza dropped her delivery bag gently to the side, her body straightening with the weight of 1,000 untold stories. "Don't ever touch me again," she said firmly, her voice low but cutting through the drizzle like lightning. The crowd felt the charge, eyes darting between them, sensing that the story wasn't finished. Cain laughed. "Or what? You'll throw a sandwich at me?" His tone was mocking, dismissive. He leaned forward on his bike, towering over her as the engine purred beneath him. People like you, poor delivery rats, you exist to move out of the way for people like me. That's when it happened. Cain tried to surge forward, intimidating her one last time. But Eliza, nimble and fueled by indignation, sidestepped swiftly. With a sharp push of her palm to the handlebar, the balance of his heavy machine faltered. The bike skidded sideways on the wet asphalt, and Cain, unprepared for the counterforce, was thrown off balance. The sound of metal scraping against the ground screeched through the street. The bike flipped halfway, crashing onto its side with a violent thud. Cain tumbled, his body slamming onto the pavement beside his overturned bike, a groan ripping from his throat as the rain plastered his hair across his forehead. The crowd erupted, not in laughter, not in cheers, but in stunned silence. They had just witnessed the impossible. The girl he had mocked, shoved, and insulted had turned his arrogance against him with nothing but her courage and quick thinking. Eliza stood still, her breath heavy, her fists clenched at her sides. She hadn't meant to humiliate him, but she had meant to remind him, and everyone watching, that no one had the right to treat her, or anyone, like they were less than human. Cain groaned, trying to lift himself up, his pride bruised more than his body. His leather jacket was scraped, his ego shredded, and his audience now watching with wide eyes not of admiration but of judgment. Eliza bent down, picked up her delivery bag, and slung it back over her shoulder. She looked at him, her expression calm but resolute. Next time, try respect. It's lighter to carry than arrogance. The rain continued to fall, washing the moment into memory, but the lesson lingered in every witness's heart. The teenager stopped recording, whispering, "She's a legend," under his breath. The old woman smiled faintly. Even the taxi driver nodded with approval. Eliza didn't wait for thanks, didn't bask in glory. She simply walked on, her sneakers splashing in the puddles, her head held high. But for Cain, lying next to his fallen bike, the moment marked the first crack in his armor, the first time someone had stood their ground and toppled the empire of his pride. And this was only the beginning. Cain never forgot that rainy day. His pride lay broken beside his overturned bike, while Eliza walked on carrying dignity far heavier than his arrogance. Sometimes, the smallest voices teach the loudest lessons. For more inspiring stories, like this video and subscribe to Goodness Corner.